so that, excuse me, so everyone can have access to them. We would even be able to display maps on the council chambers screen up here, and these would be live interactive maps versus the static maps that I've been bringing to the council at certain meetings. So if as we were discussing something, a different area of the community wanted to be talked about, or we wanted to focus in tighter on an area and see what was on a property, look at an aerial photo, we could do that right here in the council chambers. This program, or this software would allow us to greatly enhance our GIS uses, get it into more departments within the city, and allow them to see the need for our GIS systems and utilize them. So this is a wonderful opportunity that we've been given to utilize this grant for that system.
Can I, in talking with you earlier, with this $1,500, the whole program would cost approximately, what, $2,000, you
$2,000.
said? And with the grant or credit of $1,500, our share would be
500.
$500. Would you say Mr. Holm has in his budget, or it's covered in the budget somewhere?
Yes.
And, okay, so basically you just need approval to go ahead and do this purchase using monies that are already in the budget and this grant. Okay, I'd like to make that then in the form of a motion. Not a question? Alderman Winger.
Thank you. Does the 2,000 include any kind of maintenance or training, installation? And is there an annual required maintenance that we have to do with this?
For this aspect of the GIS system, no. Our overall GIS system does have a maintenance program with it, which gives us automatic updates and upgrades. This is an add-on. This would be adding a DVD player to your car rather than a AM/FM cassette. This is an add-on to it. It will always be supported by our GIS system, and as we get the upgrades, which we do pay a maintenance for that, the upgrades for this would automatically come along with it.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Subak?
I was just saying, I mean, it's great. I'm glad we applied for it. I think the manager's got a discretion up to 12,000 or 10,000, so I would just, in the future, you could probably just sell him on it and it would have been done, but I think it's a good idea.
Okay, well, we do have a motion on it to support that. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, the next item, item 7, I'm going to recuse myself. I discussed this with the city attorney. He said I do not have to leave the dais, but I cannot participate in the conversation. So I will turn this item over to co-chair Alderman Ptolemy.
Thank you, and just what everybody wanted to hear me again. There we go. Okay, the next item is the report and recommendation. This is case number 06V14. This is Grove Street Apartments. It's variance to reduce number of parking spaces. 326, 350 Grove Street, proposed conversion from existing apartments to ownership condominiums. And at this point, I guess I'd like to ask staff, because if I'm not mistaken, there are actually 4 variations that they're seeking.
That is correct.
Would you like to give us a quick overview?
Certainly. The variations would be for existing parking, the existing configuration of the lot has 130 spots. Under the development code, they are required to have 146. So they're requesting a variation of 16 parking spots. A variation for the existing lot area. The existing lot area is 94,217 square feet. For this to be a condo complex, new development would be required to have 162,300 square feet. A variation for the unit density. The density, the existing density on the property is 34 units per acre. The maximum density allowed for the zoning district is 18.8 units per acre. And a variation to permit 5 principal buildings on one lot, the 5 existing buildings, instead of the permitted 1 principal building per lot.
Density's doubled then.
Correct.
Anybody have a presentation?
I didn't know if we wanted to go through a full present. First, let me state my name. I'm Arthur Woods. I'm with Manco Homes, representing Martin Millars for the Grove Street apartment condo conversion. I didn't know, especially given the late hour, if we wanted to go through a full-blown presentation.
I'll be honest with you, I don't know, does anybody here on the committee feel that a full-blown presentation is necessary?
Well, I think
I mean,
it's
I
up
would
to
like
the
to hear.
petitioner. If the petitioner thinks it's going to be compelling to give it, I think they're owed that.
Okay,
Well, I think part of it comes to, and something that came to light from the zoning board hearings, just as I heard a comment that that number was greater than 50% of what we were looking for. The actual, we got a hold of the engineers, but it was a really tight time frame. But got a hold of the engineers, searched the title of the property and the property size again, and legally, the property is much larger than what's shown on the platted survey in its legal description. So when you factor that in, it's just a little under 4-acre site, not the 2.4. So the number of units,
does that include the middle of the creek, by the way?
yes, it does. But
That's
that
what I
is
thought.
legally part of our
Oh, I know,
property.
I know. I
and
live on the creek.
entitled. And when we platted it out, all they show is the contiguous lots, and that will only encompass, I think, 2.64 acres, which is driving that number up, making it look like we're asking for 50%.
Well,
I
but
think
can you
they-
build, I mean, and I'm not trying to be a wise guy here, but can you build in the creek? No.
Technically, no.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
So that was one of the things we wanted to address. The parking issue, we've also been dealing with Metra, going back and forth, and have found that we'll be able to pick up another 20 spaces, which would be 4 greater than what we need, I believe. So two of the big issues are based on what we call the acreage of that parcel. If we count the legal acreage of the parcel, the variance or the number of units per acre is going to go down drastically, as opposed to what they're showing now, 32 units per acre. I believe the requirement is 18, and if we count the lot legally, we would be at 22 units per acre. The other thing I just wanted to keep in mind is that in asking for the variance, I mean, and they are legal variances, that the buildings all exist. We're not asking to add another floor or enlarge anything that's there. So the variances, as all of them are a technical variance, but we're not adding anything to that property to make it require us to get the variance. I think that pretty much covers the 3 issues that the other one would be the number of units on a lot. Again, it's a technicality. There are 8 lots, contiguous lots. There are part and parcel recognized by the county only under 1 PIN number. So legally, it's 1 lot, but it is also legally 8 platted lots in that plot. But
Anybody? Okay, I'm sorry. Are you?
Well, I was going to say, most of these things are all technical, really technical issues, and not issues of me expanding the building or adding to the building, creating this.
Okay. Alderman Wesley?
I have a couple of issues. I did attend that planning and zoning board meeting on Monday. Do you happen to have that chart on what you're going to, because here's the concern I have.
Okay.
It's in the floodplain and stormwater has the issue too. That when you came to the committee, which I was part of sitting there, the 50% rule that you could inquire to upgrade the units or whatever. If you go be over that 50%, this entire city will lose FEMA, the flood rating, if you go above that. Now, tell me what your presentation is with How are you going to keep it under 50? You did a presentation Monday about the I believe it was a kitchen you're going to upgrade? All
Correct.
units. Am I correct?
Yes. Let me
Could you
see
tell
if
me
I
the
can go-
cost that you came up with that? For they know. This is per each unit in the building, am I correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I don't know if everybody can see this, but I'll try to make it quick. Doesn't matter one bedroom or two
Right.
bedroom, we were gonna go through the
That's
whole
fine.
unit. We're doing the bathrooms, the bathtub, the sinks, the faucets, the vanities, mirror, towel bar, floor tile, and then the kitchen cabinets, countertops, floor tile, and then floors in the other rooms, the living room, and bedrooms would be carpeted.
Okay. Now, but what was the price tag that you said that it would cost to do that? Ballpark.
I believe ballpark for the one-bedroom unit, it was right around $8,000, and the two-bedroom unit was right around $9,000
Okay.
for round numbers.
So we know you're going to be pretty close under that. If you don't mind, I'd like to continue on this. But you did not count the sprinkler system and the standpipe that you have to put in those buildings,
That was
in
not,
that figure.
that was not calculated in that figure, no.
Okay, so what is a price tag for the sprinkler system and to put standpipe into that into those buildings?
I don't have the exact number, but
Well, you could go over to 50%.
no, that wouldn't put us over to 50%. It would be approximately $2,000 per unit is a cost.
per unit to
Right,
to put the sprinkler system in.
correct. That's what it
Are you
comes out to.
talking, are you talking a sprinkler system, one in the unit?
Yes,
Well, according to the code, that you have to sprinkle the whole entire building, closets and everything.
right. Okay.
So one sprinkler head, let me tell you, one sprinkler head does not cover the code.
No, I misunderstood the question then. I didn't know that you were asking me how many numbers of heads were going to be in there. The number of heads will be one in every room plus the hallways,
Right, but
and according to code. That number approximately will cost us $2,000 per unit.
without the standpipes being put in the entire building to feed them.
Right, without the
Yes, you do need the
standpipes.
standpipes.
That does not include the standpipe price, no.
Well, you don't know, so you don't know what the price of the standpipes will cost either.
For the whole. So if it's 15,000,
Please.
My name is Roman. As I know, the stamp pipes wasn't required by the sprinkler system. When we had before meeting, not on that commission, stormwater, there was mistake. The stamp pipes not supposed to be there.
Well, I understand, but
But if you wanted to know the price for the stamp pipes, we had the quote about 3,000 to 5,000. It depends which stamp pipes are city required. If they require the dry or they with water. So it depends which stamp pipes city wants with the sprinkler system. But
okay, but then the other cost is to upgrade the whole entire fire alarm system. You have to have a fire alarm system for each building too. So you guys have no, I mean, where I'm coming here is that, that's fine, but I have the problem with, you have no pricing from a sprinkler contractor, you have no pricing on the fire alarm system, what it's going to cost to upgrade it. Yeah, you can tell me this is going to cost $9,000. That's dandy. But the cost of those three items are, and I'll tell you one thing, it's a high ticket item. I guarantee, because, you know, I know about the fire department here, and it's a high ticket item. And I like to know what the price is. I would like to see some prices from contractors. Because I'll tell you, to jeopardize the flood rating insurance for this community, I don't think I want to jeopardize it for this whole community for this project.
I think,
Okay.
I think Alderman Wesley, I would agree with you, but I think the issue here is that they're looking for four, for four variances. And based on what I've heard and what I've read, and believe me, we all received a big packet of documentation on this whole thing, okay? I would have to concur with the zoning board and make a recommendation to not allow conversion from the existing apartments to the ownership of the condominiums. And that's a motion. On a question? Alderman Subak?
And I'm assuming you're incorporating staff's finding pursuant to its memo from
Correct, it's all the
dated
document, all the
December 18th,
documentation.
2006, as well as from City Services dated December 27, 2006.
Yes, it would be all of the documentation that we've received in the packet. So it's anything pertaining to this particular case. Anybody else? Alderman Chucky?
I don't have any problems with the four variances that you're asking for. The building's there, it's there, the parking spaces are there, maybe you can find a few more in the area. What I do have a problem with, though, is what was mentioned at the zoning board meeting, and I'd like to quote to Frank Williams from John Forrest, the memo on Friday, June 23rd. End of the paragraph says, "The concerns of all focused on prospective uniformed purchases who will be at risk." And also later on, in one of the memos, it mentions that it should be understood that at the time, these people may come to the city and will be forced to play the bad guy and tell residents who've lost everything that they cannot rebuild. There's that I'd like to have, if that was put into the contract when people were buying these condos, that number one, there is that risk that they may not be able to rebuild. And in writing, because you were very vague about it at the other meeting. You didn't sound like you wanted to do that. And the other point I'd like to make is that I'd like to see it so that the units cannot be re-rented or rented out by the owner or leased out, that the owner would be buying it for his own use only, and that would be part of the sales contract as well. These are the two things that concern me more than anything, besides the floodplain issues that Alderman Wesley was talking about.
Mayor Johnson? Oh,
If I may have an opportunity to respond to Alderman Shockey's remarks, my name is Mark Gowie, and I'm working with Mr. Millars with regard to the condominium conversion project. And if the council wishes, we'd be willing to insert into our contract. Right now, we have language regarding the property being in a flood hazard area, but we would be willing to add whatever statement the council may require with regard to the property not being able to be rebuilt. Whatever language the city would require, we would be happy to insert that into the contract as part of one of the conditions for this variance. Also, with regard to the contract, we would also be agreeable to adding a condition that the property cannot be re-rented, but we would like to have some kind of time frame because we're not really, we're going to sell these units to 20% of our occupants. We're going to sell these units to other people who are interested in moving into the units right away, but maybe these people who buy might have circumstances later that might force them to move somewhere else, and they might rent the units temporarily till they can have other purchasers acquire the units. So maybe, instead of having that condition in perpetuity, but maybe some kind of time frame.
I think.
So allow weekly rentals.
not to allow weekly rentals, but maybe,
Go ahead, Alderman Shockey.
Yeah, those two conditions, and I don't see a problem with saying not renting at all, because if it's a week or a month that they find someplace else to live, they don't have to rent it out for that period of time. I just don't want, well, let me ask you this instead. I think you kind of walked around this as well at the other meeting. If you do not get these variations and you cannot convert to condos, what are you going to do with that property?
well, the property's only use right now is as it is an apartment building. There's nothing else that can be done with the property. If it comes down to it, I mean, my client's gonna have to rent it out to whoever he can and maybe seek, whatever kind of government assistance to put tenants in there, because the property right now is only at 70% or 80% capacity from what I recall, and it's 60%. And he's gonna have to do whatever he has to do to try to get his capacity up so he can have the property operate in the black instead of operating in the red.
By that, you mean like Section 8 housing?
We're not ruling that out.
Okay.
And you right now have 20 vacancies out of 50-some,
20 vacancies out of 73 units.
73 units?
Huh?
Thank you.
No, I'm not. Okay, Mayor Johnson?
I have some questions. Are you dropping the request for variance, number one?
With regard
And if
to-
you need time to consult with your client and get back to me before you answer that, that's fine.
I would need to consult with my client.
That you're dropping that request?
Yes, with regard to that.
And on request number 4 for the variance, I do know that it is 8 lots of record. What's the reason for variance 4?
The way with one PIN number, it's classified for the county purposes as one lot. If we
But
actually
that doesn't change our subdivision, which the previous council approved, making it 8 lots of record. No matter, that's just for convenience purposes of the assessor's office. So again, I guess why is the reason for variance 4?
If we were to classify it as 8 lots of record, we now have flag lots, we have lots that don't have access to roadway. Quite honestly, it's easier to consider it as five lots or 5 buildings on one lot.
But I mean, that's not the reality of what it is. It is 8 lots of record.
If that were to be the case, there'd be a substantial number more of variations.
Okay, well, shouldn't we deal with the reality of what it is?
It's my understanding, the way the information was presented to me, that it's one lot there's 8 lots, but it's presented as one lot.
I guess I'm confused how you can do that if that's not the reality of the situation.
When I saw the Plata survey and the plans for the area, it did appear to me at first that it was 8 individual lots. But when I did inquire with the assessor, with the property owner themselves, they were told, no, it's functioning as one lot of record.
Okay, I think we need to clarify that. And on variances 2 and 3, are you now amending them based on the additional square footage and reducing your amount of units per acre?
Yes, we are.
I don't know if this is what Mr. Bond would call a substantial change in circumstance that needs to go back to the Plan Commission or not. But he's not here, and I don't want to act as the city attorney. But let me make a general comment. At the end of the day, I think condos are better than apartments. As I understand it, if a fire department goes there now, there's no way to determine which of the 6 units might have a problem. As part of the condo conversion, you're going to upgrade the fire system so that they'll know which building, and all buildings will be sprinklered. So at the end of the day, every resident's going to be safer. It becomes condos as opposed to staying apartments. And I think that's a good thing for the citizens of Wooddale. Just a personal opinion.
Well, I'll give my personal opinion. My personal opinion is I don't agree with that. I don't agree with the idea that you can use, and I understand that it is part of your true acreage is the creek, but when you're talking about the actual physical land, buildable land, okay, that's what it's based off of. And when you look at that, there's no way that it meets our code. And I don't care what you do about trying to change the variations. If you want to go back and you want to try and change the variations, you go right ahead and you go back, and you go back all the way back through to the Plan Commission again, okay? But if you want to go back and change all these things and try to bring it back again, that's fine. But I will tell you that as long as I'm on this council, okay, for somebody to come up here and say, well, you know what, geez, we picked up almost 2 acres of land that's in the creek, that's sitting in the creek, okay? That's water. And we're going to claim that as part of our, a part of our property now. So when you're looking at the lot coverage size, okay, you have to factor that in. You know what? I'm sorry, okay? I don't agree with that. And if our ordinance is written that way, then we need to change our ordinance. But I don't believe our ordinance is written that way, okay? It's actual physical land, lot of record, okay? And if that's the case, then don't try and sit up here and tell me that your lot acreage has gone from 2.5 acres to over 4 acres now, because now you're going to be using the creek. Because if, believe me, and I honestly believe this, that not just you folks as developers, okay, or whatever you're trying to do, but any developer, if they could build over the creek, they would do it in a heartbeat. They would do it in a heartbeat, because they'd build it, and then you know what? As soon as they build it and sell it, they're out of here. They're out of this community. And the people that live here have to deal with it. The residents that buy those properties and the residents that live here have to try and solve the problems that we allowed a developer to create. And I'm sorry, but you know, right now there is a motion on the floor, and I'm calling the motion. No more questions. I'm calling the motion. Roll call, please. No, the motion is to not allow, so it's to concur with the zoning board and deny all variations.
Well, I'll second that motion.
There was a second.
Oh.
Roll call?
Was there? Okay.
There's a motion to deny, I'm sorry.
Motion to deny.
Thank you.
Alderman Subak,
Yes.
Alderman Coles. Yes. Alderman Winger,
Yes.
Alderman Knipe. I'm sorry. Right. Alderman Wesley,
Yes.
Alderman Shockey,
No.
Alderman Talmy.
Yes. Motion carries, motion denied. Going back to the report, I turn the committee back over to Chairman Knight.
Thank you, Alderman Talmy. Okay, next item is item number 8, report and recommendation, case number 06SU16, Daycare Center, 176 West Irving Park Road. Looking for a special use permit request to allow for the operation of a daycare center within the B2 zoning district. Petitioners and contract purchasers, Darius J. and Arthur Gabala, request a special use permit to allow for the operation of the daycare center within the B2 zoning. Daycare is allowable use within the B2 with authorized through a special use permit. Are the developers here or are the petitioners? Okay.
Good evening. My name is Ivana, and I'm going to be translator for Derek.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Darius Gambawa.
Okay. I'm not sure exactly. There are agencies that have to approve your, do you get the approval from the agency first, or do you have to get the zoning or the use permit first? Do you need the building first or the?
Actually, that's what happens.
Okay.
We called DCFS, and DCFS saw that building, and she said that it's okay, but we want everything in writing. And they're going to have a meeting, DCFS with health department next week, either on Tuesday or Wednesday, with us. And she's probably going to issue a letter, but that's what she said, that she also needs a statement from the village. So
Okay.
back and forth.
The property, it's located on the corner of Irving Park and Edgebrook, the old accounting firm. There, when they had gone through the ZBA, there was some question about the safety issue where, as part of the daily recreation, the children would be brought over to the park, which is just across the street adjoining the properties. When we think about it, there is two existing daycares now, one on Irving Park by the bank, where they do walk the children over in the summertime to the park, crossing two streets, Oakwood and Edgebrook. Then we have the daycare on Elizabeth Drive and Addison Road, which is right next to the creek, which was also a concern that was brought up. And then it was mentioned that, is this overtaxing or overusing the park district's property or whatever? That, I don't even think should even be an issue. The park district is there for the use of the citizens. If they use it, constantly, whoever's using it, as long as they use it, I don't believe that is one of the issues that was brought up. I see no problem using that site. It is actually not on Irving Park. It's where the children would go to the park. It's almost directly across the street. So they had one residential street in an area that there are no existing homes. When you go down for, well, a good 10 lots down or so, almost out to the next street. Congestion, traffic, I don't see as being any kind of a problem. And I think if the state agencies that they need to get their permit, to get their license, would issue to them, I have no problem with seeing this go in. On Subak.
If you're having 46 kids, and this is a license question, but approximately how many employees would you be required to have? And then with that, how many parking spaces are available there for employee parking?
There will be 8 employees, and there will be 10 parking spaces plus 1 handicap. Yes, yes.
And the parking's going to be on the asphalt in the rear?
The parking lot's gonna be, gdzie jest parking lot? That's gonna be the parking lot, and this is the building. So it's behind? Yes, behind the building.
Ma'am, you have to use the mic. The mic at the podium, please. You can't stand in front of the podium.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So the parking then is on the asphalt?
The parking is to the south end of the building, which is the existing, which has been utilized by the accounting firm since.
And my only other comment is, I think when we approved a daycare center near the creek, we required them to put a fence up where the children were going to be playing on the property because we were concerned with safety going near the creek. I don't know if they're planning on having any children playing outside, but if they were, are they, number one, and should we consider a fence around that area where the play area is?
Czy chcesz, żeby się dzieci bawiły na placu, tam gdzie kupiłeś ten, czy chcesz, żeby tylko używały public, ten park district? If it's possible, we would like children to only use the public park. If not, we will do anything to do the fences around the building, and so the children can also use it.
Alderman Chalky?
At the other meeting, they had talked about talking to the park district about using that park. Have you been able to discuss it with them?
No, we were not able to discuss them with them. We will call them tomorrow.
Now, another question. I'd like to ask Roger, perhaps, if you look at the grassy area between the street and the sidewalk, there seems to be plenty of room for car parking for at least 6 cars to park along there. I don't know what our restrictions would be on that. Can we, you want to take a look at the actual photograph from up above? Could that Could this part here be made parking? And then the asphalted area perhaps made into a playground there? Because most child centers have the playground attached right to the building. And if we eliminated the asphalt parking area, they could fence that in for the children and perhaps park the cars out here. And I think the gentleman mentioned last time, or the lady mentioned last time, that all the employees weren't there at the same time. They alternate times because the children come in between 8:30 and 10 o'clock. So they wouldn't need as much parking. And the only thing in my mind that I can't figure out, though, is how are people dropping off or picking up the children going to turn around there if they did that? I don't know if that would work or not.
Well, you bring up some very, very valid points, Alderman Shockey. I do believe that was discussed briefly at the ZBA and Plan Commission meeting on Monday. And because of the fact that not all of these employees are going to be parking there at the same time, there is sufficient room to have the parents pulling into the parking area, dropping the children off, and leaving. Another one of your questions had to do with the possibility of parking on the east side of Edgebrook.
Right.
That is quite commonplace in the city of Wooddale, provided the individuals enter into a license agreement with the city, and provided there isn't any other reason prohibiting that type of parking, such as certain types of utilities or so. But that, I guess that is a possibility. And one other issue that you had talked about, I'd like to possibly hand the microphone over to Ross Clicker, because he has in fact talked to both the Park District with regard to the children utilizing that area, as well as the DCFS people.
Okay,
So if you bear
there's
with
still
me,
the one thing you didn't bring up, though, again, is their parking lot in the back. To have that fenced in and have that as a routine place for the children to play, and perhaps go across the street once a week or whatever, like the other child care center on Irving does. They don't use it every day, I don't believe. They just go over there certain times. It might be easier and safer if the children didn't have to cross that street whenever they were let out to play, if they fenced in that parking lot and then used the street
that
instead.
also is, I do believe, a possibility, although I do not believe that is a specific requirement from DCFS. On occasions with other daycare centers, they don't have that requirement because there is no specific room or area to have the children in close proximity to the building itself.
There may not be a rule, but most of them do have it. That's why